volume is down.
Well, I don't know why this isn't playing. Well, I'm like, we're pros at this, and then I launch it, and nothing moves.
It's like the Millennium Falcon all over again.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, we're pros at that. I couldn't get the other one. There. Tales of our glory may be greatly exaggerated.
Yes.
I figured
Oh,
I was going to work on maybe a new one, and then I didn't have time this week to finish up some of the ones I started last week. So I was like, I won't do a quote unquote free day for like a new ones. I'll just finish up some of the ones because these are really cool, and I didn't like go and add the good effects on this thing yet. So I was like, well, I'll putz around with it, and we can catch up on what's been going on.
in the world of hobby.
The world of hobby. In the world of hobby. Have you seen? Have you seen like any? I haven't seen probably for the last week or maybe two any new like GW releases or anything. Do you know anything about what they're doing right now?
Um, there's been, I think there was some Gene Stealer stuff.
Okay.
Um, all the new boxes, like Christmas bundle boxes, have been sort of shown off. So like most armies have a box that you can get and go, oh look, I've got a reasonably
Okay.
sized stuff. And yeah, it's like most armies have access now to one
Okay.
of these boxes that will be
Yeah, I
out
didn't.
for or whatever. Apparently,
Yeah, I didn't. I did see some of those, but I don't think I've seen that one. I'm gonna have to go look. I want to see what they're. I'm figuring they're having some Christmas stuff, or not necessarily Christmas stuff, but you know what I mean. Just
yeah,
like.
it's like what they used to do, like where you get like an army deal type thing.
Hmm.
So I think there was one that somebody, I think Kirioth was a little bit critical over
Yeah.
an Iron Hands, like the Sons of Ferrus Manus box set sort of thing, which was like a Primaris tank, some squads of I think infiltrators, and
Okay.
like upgrade bits to make them
Yeah.
all Iron Hands, and a Mechanicum, no, sorry, a Space Marine Primaris Forge Father character
Okay.
model. And the problem what he was getting is like you can't use those upgrade bits with those Marines. They've got different pads, so like
Oh, yeah, yeah.
you
That
drop
would
the
be a
ball.
bummer on that one. I can see
Yeah,
that.
so that's it. It's the only sort of negative thing I've seen, um, because obviously you don't want to buy all this wonderful like army deal type stuff, and I
Yeah.
think the other one was like Sons of Fulgrim, which was like chaos dudes, like, and Noise Marines with their upgrade kits, and Noise
Oh,
Marines
okay.
have been around for donkey's years, so it's like old, and yeah, is that the same old like get new stuff, dudes? It's
Okay,
like
yeah, yeah. I didn't know they had that. Okay, see, I haven't heard anything about that, so I will. I'm just curious what that was that launch. So I'll have to go check out just their.
that,
And me, I'm so like, half out of it with that stuff that when I look at a box, like usually when I look at a box, I'm thinking for me just personally, so I'm probably like the vast super minority, you know what I mean? Because I'll look at it and be like, hey, when I saw, I think it was like the Mechanicus box, it had units kind of with robes that I thought were cool, and like Mechanicus units have some sort of action to them, So I was like, oh, they got those. They had like some flyers with it, so I'm like, okay, cool. You get these flying units. I think there was a bigger vehicle in it, so I was like, okay, you get a big chunky vehicle. You also got dog riders. I was like, oh, yeah, or horse or whatever those were. I'm like, oh gosh, you get three of those. that are awesome and dynamic. And then you had like the other Mechanicus that were like super skinny, almost like ninja looking ones. And to me, I was like, okay, now obviously I don't know, some of those you might need to double the squad so they're playable. Some you might need, you'd be like, oh, those are complete trash, So game wise, you might be completely screwed buying that box. But when I look at it visually, I'm like, oh, that tells like a range of units in this army that I like. Whereas sometimes I'll see one, like I'll see a Space Marines box and it's like all Space Marines and like one bigger Space Marine, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of like, it's boring visually to me. I'd be like, oh, put a couple bikes, put something this, and then maybe some jump pack dudes and like a couple of these. But I get too that when people are playing, they're like, well, I want something I can use. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, that was the thing. Is like the army boxes and like battle force boxes are
Hmm.
always been fairly generic. Like the battle force box used to be sort of follow the line that you'd have a troops choice, a HQ choice, and a sort of vehicle sort of thing. Like
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
you
that
can
makes
put the
sense.
troops
Usually like a
into
dreadnought or something.
yeah,
Rhino.
or they'll give you something like that. So like Space Marines might have had a dreadnought in there or something.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's I know there's been times like I think the Indomitus box set that came out last year with the Necrons and the Space Marines. It's like the army, like the Necron side of things. When you add it all up, it doesn't really make a coherent type of playable
Yeah, yeah.
army.
That would be
And
a bummer too. If I was a new person, I was like, hey, cool, I'll pick this up. And I was like, wait, you can't play really any of this stuff? Like, you
yeah,
know
you
what I
need
mean? Like
to
that
buy
would,
several other things to make it
yeah,
work.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think they should like do because I know like with this like the Mechanicus one you just talked about.
Hmm.
So you got the little fly dudes. So I think they're going to be like a fast attack.
Yeah.
The horsey doggy dudes. The Sidonus riders. I think or something like
Yeah. I
might be
love
good.
those. That's one of the reasons I picked up Mechanicus stuff is because it's like, oh, I'll eventually get those riders just because I thought they looked awesome.
Mm. Oh yeah, no, they do. And you just think, well, they might be a fast attack, or they might be an elite. They might,
Hmm.
you got Skitari. Then you got like the Rust Stalkers, which they're going to be an elite because they're like assassins or infiltrators.
Oh, is that
Um,
what those are?
yeah,
Oh,
the,
okay, I
the
didn't know that.
Rust Stalkers. Well, you basically swap the heads. So one's like an infiltrating unit, the other ones are like a good like slappy, stabby uh,
Yeah.
sort of thing. Um, but yeah, it's they're I love the Mechanicus aesthetic anyway.
Yeah, and it was when I came, like whatever, come back or whatever you want to say, I was surprised because I had Space Wolves were kind of my, before I just had the generic Marines back when it was like, the plastic and the first metal ones, I was just like, oh, I'll paint whatever. But then when it started coming out in the box set edition, I got into Space Wolves. I was like, oh, okay, I got the army, and then I liked Wolves all the time, and they actually came out with the rule book, so it all kind of worked perfect. And I was kind of thought, oh, what would I go? I'm like, maybe I would do that again, or maybe I would look at Chaos. And then I ended up like seeing the Mechanicus stuff, and they were really never. I mean, I liked some of the concept of them back then, but they weren't as developed as they are now. And I was just like, wow, that the thing I think really I fell in love with was that Iron Strider model. That was like the first model I bought back. I'm like, dude, I gotta get one of those just cause like still haven't put it together, but I'm like, that thing is awesome. I was like, and then before I even put it together, I'm like, man, they had like the two different versions, the guy with the lance, the guy with the gun. I'm like, oh God, do I have to modify this because I want both? And like, I'm like, how heavy am I talking here? So I didn't even get started on that, but I know that thing was cool to me.
Mm, the old chicken walkers, as they
Yeah,
call
yeah,
them. I've only got two, but the lance ones because I just like the
yeah,
idea of
for sure.
chickening along, stabbing things.
Yeah, it's like joust on amped up.
Because I've got like the tanks, the walker tanks they do, the dune crawlers.
Oh
I've
yeah.
got I've got three of them, and I'm able to swap some of the weapons out. So I can either have like the real big, heavy hitting gun, or the shot intermediate weapon, or the sort of anti-infantry type weapon. I've really liked those because it is proper sort of like Mechanicus, you know, make
Yeah.
a spider tank.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the anti-aircraft one, the Icarus one, which has like four
Okay.
quad,
I actually remember that one too now.
that's actually pretty nasty as it is. Even though it's like meant to be like an anti-air unit, it's like in World War II, the German 88.
Oh yeah, you could shoot that at
Anti-aircraft.
whatever.
Yeah. We've made this as an anti-aircraft
Yeah.
weapon, but it's very
Yeah, you can
important this
shoot that at
tank.
anything and do yeah, do some
It's just like,
damage.
we'll use it against tanks.
Yeah.
Airplanes, too many airplanes. Let's shoot tanks.
Yeah. The
So
airplanes are too hard to hit. Shoot at something
they're
easy.
pretty fast.
Yeah, too bloody fast. Let's improve our hit percentage and aim at tanks.
So yeah, it was it's in the game. It's like it looks pretty cool anyway, and like you think, oh, it's an
Yeah.
anti-aircraft sort of setup, but the amount of weapons it's got, even like because you're meant to have like if you're shooting ground targets, you have to add 1 to the difficulty to shoot, sort of thing, because
Yep.
you desire to shoot air, but you still take that because the amount of shots you've got,
Okay.
you know,
Makes
you're
up
throwing,
for it or gives you a decent chance. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's totally worth it. Like the rule of averages, sort of thing. You'll get a good few
Yeah.
solid shots and something. But yeah, I always prefer using that one over.
Ah, good to know.
But yeah, Mechanicus are just great like that. It was very like, you know, clockwork.
The other one I was considering is Sisters. Like, oh gosh, I love the look. Like, what's funny is they were coming
Now,
out.
when you say Sisters, do you mean Sisters of Battle or the new Sisters of Silence?
See, and I, because of my ignorance, don't even know the difference, buddy. You ain't gonna catch me in a trick question like that. you're, you're not gonna catch me in that.
Nah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
'cause he looks
okay, here, what's the difference?
right. So the Sisters of Silence have been around since before the Heresy.
Oh,
But they were like the handmaidens to the emperor. They are all negatives. They're all blanks.
okay.
So when you're dealing with psychers, the Sisters of Silence would be super
Oh,
long, and
that's why they're called silence. I get it.
yeah, and their presence nullifies any psychic effect, sort of thing. So they were basically charged with hunting down rogue psychers, but
Oh,
also
that's
collecting
cool.
all the psychers that are fed to the emperor.
Oh, okay, okay.
So they went around on their little black ships, finding all these rogue psychers, sticking them into like cryo tubes, and then either giving them to like the astropaths to be made into astropaths, or you know, some sort of lesser role psyker communicator, or being used as batteries
Yeah.
for psychic weapons and the Astronomicon and stuff like that. Many uses for psychers, but they were their presence just basically just nullifies psychic ability. Which, funnily enough, one of my favourite scenes involving them was when in their heresy, when they're having the Treaty of Nicaea, where
Okay.
the Thousand Sons were basically kind of sort of brought to a meeting of their peers about the use of psychers and librarians in the sort of like
Yeah.
Astartes and stuff. And they built this sort of like amphitheater type place for this this thing to take place.
Okay.
And it was almost like the Thousand Sons were on trial because of their, you know,
Yeah.
lots of psychers and stuff like that. And Mortarion was like anti-psyker. Magnus was obviously pro-psyker, along with the Khan and some of the, I think, Blood Angels dudes as well.
Okay.
But whilst that was happening, like on this, like the show, in this like courtroom drama with the
Yeah.
Empress sitting there and like
Dude, one of those gavel falls and it plays the
yeah,
music. Ding,
basically,
ding. Yeah.
yeah. So whilst all that's happening, underneath the sort of facility is a room, and in that room is Layman Russ, the Wolf King
Yeah.
himself,
Yeah.
um, with several Sisters of Silence standing around him because their
Oh,
presence
wow.
would mask
Yeah.
his presence.
Yeah.
So nobody, like, apart from like the Emperor and somebody else,
Yeah.
knew that he was there, and like a couple of his great companies, just in case shit got real.
Yeah.
Obviously, it
Oh
didn't
yeah,
get
because
real.
that was kind of his job, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So they put that there in case something really went down. Yeah.
yeah. So he was underneath this, courtroom.
Ooh, I never heard that one. That's a cool little tidbit story I
Yeah.
like. It's
So
good. It's great. I love this show. It's it's just I get like the little snippets from I used to love like in the books and in the rules and all that. It's like having the live version with you. Like I just get to hear them. I don't even have to read them. It's perfect.
yes. Yeah, no, it's the because there was something in one of the books which was there was two books. There was Thousand Suns and Prospero Burns, and it's
Okay.
basically talking
Yeah.
about how the Space Wolves and the Thousand Suns sort of
Fell
did what they
off.
did, and
Yeah.
Prospero falling and all that sort of stuff. But it was this one other scene where the Thousand Suns, Space Wolves, and the Word Bearers are on operation together, and obviously the Thousand Suns prized knowledge over everything, and
Yep.
they were trying to like empty out this library of books
Yeah, and
for
they were yeah, heretical.
and Russ wasn't too enamored with that. Oh, you're collecting books and all that, and he turns up and sort of lets rip, and he howls, like as wolves howl.
Oh,
But
did he? Okay.
and he howls, and this howl of his has this like psychic resonance, and it
Okay.
stunned like a lot of the sort of psychers there. And it was just like, well, that's pretty awesome because like
Yeah.
it was early days. Was like, the Heresy book series had been going for a
Yeah,
couple of
because I see
years.
it. It's like almost his howl because of that, and it has the psychic kind of properties or whatever.
Yeah,
Probably, yeah.
it wasn't until then that you sort of learned that basically all the Primarchs have psychic ability in one
Mm-hmm.
form or another. Some are more obviously obvious, others
Yeah.
not as obvious, sort of thing. And their various skills have different sort of,
Yeah. How they?
like
Yeah.
Halter and Sanguinius can see the future, whereas not everyone else can.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was just really like interesting to like just imagine like look, Russ just stalking along, letting rip with this mighty howl.
Yeah.
Like, all these Thousand Sons librarians are going, "What the hell's going on?"
Yeah. Not you never had that happen before.
Yeah. What's going on? Why is he howling? Why can't I think straight?
Yeah. Huh. Have a
Bit like yeah.
so I remember like what was I gonna say? The okay, maybe I don't think I watched the latest episode of Wheel
Wheel
of
of Time.
Time. Did you watch it?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you did watch that one. Do you where I mean we'll try I'm not too particular about spoilers, but I mean let's obviously try not to be too douchey. But but where did the
Screw you
episode
guys.
yeah, where did not that episode obviously, but where did the one before it end off? Just to refresh my memory. Do you remember where that episode ended off? Not the one you
Ooh,
watched, but the one before it.
all
Were
right.
they were they in the I,
They were shacking up in a barn. So Rand and what's his face,
oh, that's
Matt
right.
and
Yeah.
Tom were on their way from that town where they had the psychotic barmaid.
Okay,
Uh,
so I actually remember that part from the book, and so those three were traveling together, and yeah, I do remember them checking out.
and they,
What was? Oh, keep going.
yeah, so they basically, as they were walking along, they got sort of like ambushed by because they was checking out a barn. They wanted to like crash in a
There was a
barn,
dark fiend or whatever.
and the farmer sort of like caught them and Rand sort of talked him down. So like, honestly, we are just we're
Hmm.
traveling. We just want to sleep in your barn. We'll be gone. And basically the farmer sort of all right, and they go stay in there overnight. And it was actually interesting because this is the family they stayed with in the book. Tom wasn't with them at that time.
Okay.
Um, and basically, what happens there is there was a fade shows up.
Oh, that's right. Didn't they get split up? They got split up,
Yeah,
I
so
think.
Tom,
Okay.
because what happened in the book is when Tom fought off the fade and let them escape,
Yep.
um, and then as they're making their way to Camelin, is when so it was sort of in a way it was sort of partly the wrong way round. So the
Hmm.
dark friend thing should have happened after this thing,
Yeah, I gotcha.
because they'd been with
They,
Tom for a little while. And in the books they were learning how to play the instruments
yeah.
and juggle, so they could earn their money as gleemen. So they were gleeman apprentices.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I forgot that was so long ago when I read that
Yeah,
too.
and after it was what happened in Whitebridge when the Fade attacked in the book, and Tom basically defends the boys so they can
Yeah.
get away. And as they're on their way to Camelin, they stop off at this farm with the Grindwalds, I think they're called, and there was a girl there who was cracking on, who fancied Rand. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and like they entertained the kids juggling and playing the flute or whatever, or playing recorder. I don't know and stuff. And then they went off on their merry way after that, and they go to Four Kings, which is another like big town. So from Whitebridge, go to the farm, then they go to
Yep.
Four Kings, and the Four Kings is where the Dark Friend locks them in the back room,
Okay.
and that's where in the book Rand summons lightning.
Oh, is okay. See, good thing you told me that because I forgot. I remember the being locked in, but I don't remember, the whole light. I was like, well, yeah, he had to use it first somewhere.
Yeah, they realised that the barman of the place took a fancy to Rand's sword,
Yeah.
and like I think he caught a glimpse of maybe the flute case because he had like a silver flute or something that was
Hmm.
Tom's, which he was carrying. He weren't allowed to use it, but he was carrying it.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and it was obviously this barman was like getting them to work for their food and lodgings, and
They're gonna
really sort of
take it.
take the mick, like, oh, you had to like play for like eight
Yep.
hours. Um, and then he was trying to take advantage and get the sword and stuff off of them, but they'd locked themselves in or something. And as they were trying to get in there, it all got very stressful, and Rand basically managed to sort of summon lightning.
Yo, Echo. Thanks for making it.
Hey, Echo.
Yep, there are dark fiends. They are gonna try to trap you. So, you said this first season wasn't it like only 6 episodes or something?
No, it's 8 episodes.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're up to this Friday's episode 6.
All right.
So they've accelerated through a lot of stuff. They've changed things around a bit.
Yep.
Um,
Echo, do you happen to watch this show at all by chance? Just curious. I'm sure there'll be a little delay getting back. Okay, so
but I
then,
think what they're doing, like the changes they've done, like the whole thing about Perrin being married and
yeah,
accidentally killing his wife, that does sort of give him that sort of emotional turmoil, because Perrin in the books was
yeah,
always like emotionally raw and stuff.
he was, and it'd be harder to. Yeah, I could see that it does give him a little bit of a reason to be that way, a little more of a reason when you're trying to tell a story like
Yeah,
on a TV show like that. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, that was the fourth end of the fourth episode was where Logain and his followers are trying to free him, and
Oh
you
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was pretty good. I
had
like that too.
Lane and Nynaeve with the Aes Sedai defending against the attacks, and
Echo says, "Nope, I'm lost as hell, but it's interesting to hear about." Here, wait, I want to see if I can do this. So wait, if I leave this one up, can I go back to here while this is up and applaud your comment? I can. Thank you, Echo. We appreciate you trying to make it.
but yeah, it was quite a good little episode where you had Logain and Moraine sort of like trying to hold shielding him with one of her sisters, and they're saying like,
Yeah,
you know, he's powerful, and then like because he believes he's the Dragon Reborn,
yeah,
they were just basically saying, said, you know, you as strong as you are, you know, I don't think you are the Dragon Reborn, because
hmm
the Dragon Reborn, the power of the one power that he or she
it's just
has
massive.
is
Yeah,
basically would be as bright as the sun. And at the end of that episode, when all the shit's kicked off and there's multiple casualties,
yeah, yeah,
Nynaeve basically, for the first time, really lets loose because injury to Lan,
yeah,
and it's just like, and you see Logain just looking at her, going, and he
yeah.
will be as bright as the sun, and he's realizing that there are people out there who are much stronger than him.
That was
And
I thought they did that. That was one of the things that like kind of drew me in a little bit with that series is like they started doing that. I'm like, okay, this is kind of getting me where I'm like, okay, I want to kind of see more. And like they're doing the, the infighting sisters and then him breaking free and all that. I was like, okay, cool. Like it was feeling that way. It was feeling like the story to me. I mean, from like having read that stuff to this, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is it's trying to represent what it is. You know what I mean? I thought they were doing solid with that.
yeah, it's we'll see, because there's so much stuff in that series of books. There's obviously so many characters. There's so many sort of
Yeah.
races, cultures, and everything that's going on. Um, Trying to make it into a TV series and just doing like 8 episodes.
Yeah.
8 episodes is nowhere near enough, in my opinion,
hmm
to really bring out the
Start the
best.
story. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Echo, Echo, what are you working on? Are you working on any hobby stuff or any like shows you're watching or anything like that that's going on, hobby or whatever wise, while we chit chat?
so yeah. So episode 6. Um, so it must be gearing up to the sort of the last part, basically, of the Eye of the World, which is the first book.
I wonder, I don't know how what kind of reception or anything it's getting, so I wonder if it'll get a second season, considering I almost think odds are against it, and only based on the fact that it was so expensive.
Well,
You know
I
what
don't
I mean?
know.
That's my worry. I'm like, okay, are you really gonna like to me if it's that expensive, you need like fantastic numbers to justify it. And I'm like, I didn't look anything about like reception or any of that stuff. I just like watched it, So I'm hoping it's solid enough to get another season.
Yeah, well, I think it was already, from what I remember, it's already been sort of like greenlit for a
Yeah.
second season.
Okay.
Um, although the Barney Harris who plays Matt won't
Yeah,
be in it.
yeah, that was I was I
Haven't
mean,
changed the actor.
yeah, and that was funny is because I think we talked about that last week, and he was one of my favorites already. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, I like that actor. I'm like, that was fitting him great.
Yeah, so I don't know. And the thing is, it's like once I, it I don't. I think they could have done more with it, but it's down to whoever's directing,
Hmm.
producing, um,
Yeah, because you
their vision and
seriously,
stuff.
that's one of the things I learned. I watched those on Netflix, like the movies that made us. And every time it's like some great movie or some classic, it's always because there's a couple psychos who just fought for hard for everything. You know what I mean? Who like really wanted it and had like this vision, and you're like trying it the whole time. And I think if if you like kind of lack that, like someone who just kind of has the big picture in mind, like, hey, this is going to work because it should feel like this. I think if you divvy up that or you don't have, the couple people at the top who have that big vision, I think that's probably one of the harder things I think to kind of just achieve, because you're doing a huge project at scale, man. Like the directors, I'll give them their props and stuff because you got to kind of have the concept in your mind of how it's going to look, how it's going to play out. And that's so hard to do on something that massive.
So the thing is once they release the Lord of the Rings series that they're doing, like that's costing a lot more than what Wheel of Time did.
Wait, what is
And
costing more? How did I miss that? What did you just say?
the Lord of the Rings series they're
Oh,
doing,
wow. Yeah, you're right.
which is like based in the Second Age, so it's like the stuff from the
Hmm.
Silmarillion. Um, that when you're comparing that to the Wheel of Time is nothing in comparison to
Hmm.
what's being thrown at that. Um, because you've not only have you got such a rich background from Tolkien himself, but you've got the Weta Workshop. You
Yeah, I
know, all the
know.
stuff to do
Yeah.
with Lord of the Rings, they've got you covered.
They
You know,
said
so like,
they say what a workshop is going to be the next artist empire.
I've heard that. I've actually heard that. I've seen it on graffiti in third world countries.
Did you
Um,
wait? Who was the guy? Did you see one of the sculptors? One of the sculptors from What a Workshop. Of course, they all love this stuff. Did you see his game board that he made? So one of the guys made a workshop, and it like, dude, all these pieces pull apart in all these intricate
on a
ways, and like
modular
us.
gaming table.
Yeah, he had this huge gaming table and I was like, oh my God, that is like so amazing. Because I'm like, yeah, you have a top tier professional who's then like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make a game table.
Yeah, no, I saw that a couple of years ago when he sort
Yeah.
of first announced it because he was saying that they was trying to work on trying again. It's like get that into that sort of
Mm-hmm.
like model making and scenery stuff, like so you can
Yeah.
actually modular
Yeah, because
building
people would
of
want that. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
Oh, totally. But he like I remember seeing that video. It's like wow, that is really especially like for tabletop gaming or even
Yeah, yeah.
like D&D even sort of thing, you
Yeah,
know.
all that stuff. It
Um,
would be just amazing.
but I know like with like Weta and Mr. Pete Jackson himself, because I think I've told you the story before that where he basically placed an order with Games Workshop for all their like loads of models.
Yeah.
Uh, one of my like Facebook friends, uh, Edwin, used to be sort of like one of the main sort of
Mm-hmm.
purchasing sort of sales guys,
Yeah.
and he actually handled the sale of
Okay.
all these models to Peter Jackson, and he was like, he had like sheet after sheet after sheet on the
Yeah,
computer,
yeah, because you just order whatever you want. You don't care about
and
that. Yeah.
he had to sort of like use a couple of credit cards to pay for it. Like, oh, I'll give you another credit card to pay for that lot there. But
Yeah.
it was like it was a kind of like a thank you or something, because Games Workshop had done all those models for
Yep.
Lord of the Rings, so they got you say it was like a little like a thank you
Yeah.
for
Yeah. It's like here, I'll
all
buy.
the work
Yeah.
that they did. And he's a bit of a sort of a gaming hobbyist as well, as far as I'm
Yeah.
aware. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
he likes
you know he
so
likes
much.
all that stuff. Yeah, there's no way it's not on your radar even you know what I mean? He's seen the sculpts and he's seen people working on it and all that stuff.
He had to okay them at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it was like that, and with the like the Hobbit and stuff, because they had to like their like NDAs
Yep.
against like all the stuff that they were getting was not known. So
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
all the stuff that they could produce models for, um, they had all that sort of like stuff way before anyone else knew it
What
existed
did
in the movie.
and I, of course, I wasn't ignoring you, Echo, but I figured this is the perfect time. So, hobby stuff, I'm working on some Tau, waiting for some red flower tufts to come in the mail because that shipped a week or two ago. Oh, other than that, not really watching any series right now. Tau, I I kind of dig the Tau. It's hard for me to say. I think my thing is I think their aesthetic it fits me. I think like 80%. To me it seems like they have to tweak it just a little, and I don't even know why I say that. Like I don't look at any of the Tau models and go, oh, that's bad or anything. It just seems like maybe it's the fact that like space marines have evolved for like 30 years or however long, and it seems like Tau, I think you go another 5 years of design or whatever on that, and I think they'll really kind of start knocking down what I dig about them. Because there is
Yeah,
stuff.
sorry.
No, go.
Yeah, with the towel, because it was the towel that brought me back into the hobby.
Mm-hmm.
When I had my little sort of like sabbatical
Yep.
away. Um, they started off quite strongly, bit like a new race with no sort
Mm-hmm.
of information on. They had a lot of sort of concepts which were really quite interesting, um, but they sort of changed. Like the
Mm-hmm.
second codex came out, and there was a slight variation. They was going down a different thing, because the problem I had was that with like the ethereals, which are the ruling caste,
Yep.
the Tau don't engage in close combat. They
Okay.
don't.
Yep.
They don't. Oh no, no, because that harks back to the time that we almost exterminated ourselves. Which,
Barbarians. Yeah.
yeah, that sort of well, it was post barbarians. It was
Well,
like
yeah.
their castes were all split, and like two
Mm-hmm.
castes versus the others, and it got the fire caste. We were the biggest, strongest of the caste, and then
Oh, is it? Okay.
they were fighting against the earth and water caste. So it was fire and air, earth and water against each other. And one mysterious night, this strange-looking Tau turns up and brings peace, and things started to. And they worked as a race together for the betterment for the species. They came
Mm-hmm.
away from the precipice, and they started to work together,
Okay.
and you know started to become what they are now. But as a game unit, an ethereal was it had like close combat weapons. It had no range weapons, and
Mm-hmm.
its point was that the ethereals were the only ones that could engage in close combat, because you can't allow the Tau to engage in close combat. It's not the way, because we don't want
Yeah.
them going back to that bloodthirsty slaughtering day sort of thing. And you go, right, okay, I get that. That's a noble sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then they pointless unit to have. It's like, but they can get killed really easily. They've got no power armor. They've got no
Yeah.
buffs or anything like that. So, and they used to have a rule that if your ethereal died, then your entire army would like march towards the enemy and just like in grief, just like
get mowed down.
mow you down and all that sort of thing. So you thought, right, that's interesting, but why would you buy an ethereal character to deploy
If that
when
could
it could
happen.
be negative to your army? And you know,
Yeah,
it
it's
was
just
just
basically kill that thing and then it's game over
yeah,
almost.
yeah. So like like every other race, their HQ choices are pretty cool, pretty badass.
Mm-hmm.
This and that. Yeah, they were quite good at close combat, but they weren't very strong. And you had to upgrade them to give them a saving throw. So you had to give them shield drones
Oh
in order
yeah.
to give them a saving throw because there was like no armor. So I always thought that the way it was, because obviously the aesthetic was based on like the Asagari foot soldiers of
Yeah.
Japan, and a bit of
Which I
anime.
dig. I love that, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that what they could have done with the Ethereals was that, yeah, okay, you foot soldiers, like you fire warriors, you're not allowed to engage in close combat because it's bad
You
for you.
might. Yeah, these guys are trained against it or whatever. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
because we don't want you falling prey to those feelings again. But then, like, you'd have like these ethereals who were like samurai, because back
Mm-hmm.
in feudal Japan, peasants weren't allowed to fight.
No. No.
That wasn't right. It was samurai. There was honor, and they wielded honor blades,
Yeah.
and you thought, well, okay, we'll make them really good at close combat, and they would have surely, the Tower technologically advanced race, so surely they
Yeah.
would have something like personalized shields or something,
Yeah.
or and just thought, just if you made them a little bit of a super badass sort of like samurai character, you'd go, oh yeah, I'll take one of them sort of thing. But they didn't, and they started changing and playing about with stuff a bit. Like they didn't really have a real concept of what they were doing with them.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of lost themselves a little bit. Because then you had like Unvar turn up, who's known as Space Pope. It's just I think they just needed, like we were saying earlier on, you needed one person that said, like, okay, this is a
Yeah.
new race. This is what we want to do with them. We're going to obviously steal from the Japanese aesthetic.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Um,
hard though, man. It's hard launching that and your big
yeah,
vision, and you got so many fans with so many opinions, and you're trying to average it all out and do something.
but
It's
that's the
like,
thing, it's
yeah,
brand new, so it doesn't really matter, does it?
yeah,
You can just go with, like, this is what they do. This is that. This is this.
hmm
But their thing that they should have really done was, like, they started it with the first release, which was Crew, which they used
See, I
auxiliaries.
love the crew. That was one of the things I liked. And Echo said Space Pope.
Yeah. Unvar is known as Space Pope, and I can tell you that that's the name that the actual creator of the character called him as well, Space Pope.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, it was like you had Farsight, which was an interesting character. Commander Farsight, who was out from release, but then like he was like, I didn't want to see Tau go down the way like the Eldar, where they had Dark Eldar and Dark
Yeah,
Tau.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They didn't need that.
Hmm.
And for a while, they were, again, because the whole thing about 40k, there is no good guys.
Yeah.
But for a time, the Tau were the nearest thing you had to a good
Hmm.
guy, because their whole thing was like they made them more sinister from the Dawn of War game, where they had this end scene saying about if they won the battle of the planet, they basically win control of a hive world. Now, a hive world, one hive probably has more people in it than an entire sept, which is like a whole planet of Tau. sort of thing. So even their biggest planets, like Dalith, which is a very
Yeah.
cosmopolitan place, wouldn't have as many people as what a hive world would, because on a hive world you'd probably have several hives, which are obviously super skyscraping structures with
Yeah.
billions of people within them. Whereas a Tau planet, you might only have at most like a couple of billion at most on their major worlds, because they are still a very young race in comparison to the Imperium.
Yeah.
But they've said like at this end cutscene, which everybody uses as sort of like dogmatic truth, is that like
Yeah.
say like okay, we're going to start putting sort of like birth control stuff into sterilization
Mm-hmm.
into the water supply and stuff like that, and like as a human, you're going, oh my god, they're sterilizing us.
Yeah.
Ah! But the way, it's not like you come around here, you've conquered the planet, and yet you sterilize, you stop us from having babies. How dare you? You know. But the thing is that the Tau are taking over a hive world with multiple billions of people in there. They have to.
Yeah. Well,
So
see,
you have to
that's
sort of
I
slow.
never that's like the thing with like I I guess when I started 40K, you gotta remember, so it's like with me and a few friends, right? So you're not going out there and whatever, so there's no big interaction or you maybe I'd come across some people later during like second edition and into like when Epic was out, and play. So I'd come across people who like knew people. So you play with that group like your friends and then kind of like an extended group sometimes. And so the concept of me ever thinking about good guys in 40K just as a concept was never even there. To me, it was
Mm,
like, oh, dude, like when I saw the story, I was like, oh man, here is just this like, humanity is put in this huge bind, and there's like no clear cut way out, and all these factions form, and some are doing more messed up things than ever, and like you have demons that'll twist you and warp you, so you're gonna react to that and do crazy things yourself, and you got these different races that are just bred to fight and all this. So, like, good Imperium, like, okay, well, yeah, like my thing was like, yeah, you're the man age of Imperium where everything's doing it, and I'm like, okay, you're gonna have individuals who are more trying to do the right thing or be like, hey, man, I don't want to just like butcher everybody, and you're gonna have people who are like, dude, we got to butcher everybody because like you can't leave anyone there. So I just, to me, it was more a tale of like the screwed up things that can happen when you go down the wrong path. You know what I mean? That's what it was to me. It was like all that, like that, now I can't even think of the typical term for it. The non-utopia, but the, like, what's the opposite of utopia?
this,
Yeah,
this,
dystopic. Yeah, like a dystopia type environment, And so that's what it was to me. So it was always like this, and because of that, like you wouldn't get any clear cut like, oh yeah, he's a really good guy. It's like, well, how, yeah, you might, if you're trying to survive and they're killing all these people and you're trying to stop them and all. So I guess that's what I liked about it. It was just this kind of vague, are they trying to do the good thing or would you do that? Or it was like a lot to kind of, I think for storytelling, it would give you fun things to think about. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, is this person really good, or are they bad, or are they this, or
and,
whatever.
I was in a Games Workshop store, and I always remember this because this mum came in and she was looking to buying. Her son was showing an interest in Games Workshop, so she's come
Hmm.
into the Games Workshop, and she was sort of like, "I don't know anything about Games Workshop. Can you tell me, what's a good thing? My son's
Hmm.
wants to get." And the blue shirt there was basically going through everyone, and he said like, you got the orcs. They're sort of like big, brutal sort of thing,
Yeah.
but they're funny, but they're like, they go around like having fights with each other all the time. And then you've got, you know, um, Space Marines, they're like the genetically modified
Hmm.
superheroes of the Imperium sort of thing. And I'm standing there, I'm listening, I thought, yeah, that's all right. And then he went on to the Tau and said, yeah, basically the Tau are space communists. And it's like, what? space communists. What are you talking about, space communists? You know, socialism is not communism. You know, yes, they want to basically, they want the
Yeah.
betterment for their entire race. And at the time, the way I saw the Tau Empire, as it was back in those early days, was akin to Starfleet in Star Trek,
Hmm.
with one
And I'm
important
sure
thing.
that's probably what they were. If from just me looking at it and not knowing much about them, that was a little bit of the vibe I got of it. Like they're trying to be like, hey, they're trying to organize and do something new and whatever. And I didn't know about their history. You know what I mean? I didn't know much because the Tao came later after I wasn't even like paying that much attention, but
Yeah,
I would still pick up books once in a while and see just kind of the visuals because I always liked it. But it seemed like they were trying to do something new, and the little bit I knew of about them, you didn't see like for just me, it's like okay, you're not seeing all kinds of spikes or anything. You're seeing sleeker stuff, and they're trying to be, even if you're just trying to be clean in the 40K universe, I think that says a lot about the character or the game pieces.
yeah. It was like when I say like they're like Starfleet, is that like there was like a community of
Mm-hmm.
people of races working together, sort of thing, to make
Yeah.
things better for each other and all that sort of stuff. Um, but the thing that was missing was that they don't have the prime directive,
Mm-hmm.
where if they turn up to a planet and there's a race living on it, they will approach them and say, "Look, do you want to trade with
Yeah.
us? You've got some stuff there that we're keen on. We
Yeah.
can give you these shinies, all right?" And they will try trading first. And eventually, if they don't get anywhere, then they'll resort to
Yeah.
militarized action, sort of thing.
Yeah, they're just their first instinct isn't just wipe it out and go.
Yeah. So that's their thing. They'll try and trade their way across the galaxy, make peace and stuff like that, and then subsume these cultures.
Hmm.
But they don't go around and setting up death camps or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Everyone has had like there was one thing they used to say, but obviously it's probably been changed now. It was basically like when it was like talking to like humans, um, if you wanted to join the greater good of the Tau Empire, they didn't care who you could worship the God Emperor, but
Yeah.
all you need to do is just do your job. You know, work for the betterment of the Tau Empire. So they're not asking you to go out there and like snitch on anyone. They're just saying like
Eros.
you can worship who you want. You can but just work towards the greater good, a concept, not a god.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but that's all sort of been changed now as well, because apparently there is some form of deity forming because of all
Hmm.
the belief. Because that's the thing, the whole
Oh,
universe.
did they? Yeah, because that's the whole thing with belief. Some sort of deity is forming because of the Tao. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Because say again, like the Tau had all this, because it was the thing that's always been a little bit like, well, they're only technically they were found in the mid 30,000s by a Mechanicus expeditionary fleet, and it was
Okay.
marched, be exterminated, and repopulated with humans. But then there was a warp storm, closed it off for several thousand years, and in that time,
Oh.
from when they were like plains dwelling sort of humans,
Oh, and
sort of
they got that far advanced that kind of
and then
quick.
and now they've got grav tanks.
Oh, wow, I didn't know. Okay, so that's the thing
So
behind
it's like a
that.
6,000 year turnaround from walking around the plains hunting mammoth
To
to
Yeah,
basically spacefaring
I
Starfleet
saw
type.
something, I don't know where it was the other day, but it was a it was they showed us that I forget the exact number, so whatever, but it was 66 years or 60 some years between these events, and it showed the it's probably the Wright brothers plane, and then it showed the man on the moon. I was like,
Mm.
gosh, that's nuts, dude. like like that
Yeah,
doesn't even I had to run it through my head like, wait, is that real? I'm like, is that like I'm like, to go from just trying to get into the air to flying through a vacuum, leading into the planetary atmosphere, landing, like all that bullshit. I'm like, you did
well,
that in
that was
six.
only
I'm like,
about
that wouldn't
50,
even seem
59 years.
possible. Yes.
59 years. It was
Yeah, so That's nuts,
What's the
dude.
name of the plane? The flight of no.
Oh, was it Kitty Hawk or
Oh,
what
St.
was
Louis. The thing of
St.
St. Louis,
Louis?
weren't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. At Kitty Hawk with the Wright brothers,
Yeah.
and they flew, and then 59. That was 1910, I think it was, and then
Okay.
in
Yeah.
1969, America's Neil Armstrong was the first man on the moon.
That's just
So
nuts. That like
yeah,
because even if you told me that now, I'd be like, oh God, it must have been like 100 years between them or something. You know what I mean? I'm like the fact that they went like that is just that's not even someone's lifetime. You know what I mean? It's like you did that in like a person's lifespan. Someone was born right before that, and like they like had flight when they were 10. Someone learned how to fly, and by the time
but
they
what
were
did we
set,
have in those intervening years? What did we have?
what did we have? Bunch of war.
Exactly. We had two
Yeah,
world wars.
yeah,
And what does war do?
yeah. It spurs some
It
serious
basically
innovation.
increases the technology at killing each other,
Yeah.
um,
Well,
and
that's
as well
true.
as
I mean, that's the whole reason they got up there is all the rocketry
yeah.
stuff went nuts, dude.
So like airplanes were just been sort of coming around, and then you had like World War One, you had like the Sopwith Camel and the Focke-Wulf
And
and all that
that's
sort of
true.
thing.
I mean, if we think about that way, you know, we would have never got up to the moon that fast if it wasn't for all that
Okay.
rocketry
And
stuff.
then
Because that
World
was
War Two
mad.
kicks off. V1s,
Yeah.
V2s, and all the
Hmm.
German scientists that Russia and America captured. And the
Yeah.
next minute, it's like, okay, we got to get into space because we don't
Yeah.
want the Russians sitting above us, like throwing down bombs from space. We need to
And
get into space.
I know. So that is, yeah, that's the
There was
power of,
one of my favourite films, which is it's just awesome, and it's based on obviously that sort of era, was the right stuff.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
which you had there is a TV series of it,
Hmm.
but I started watching it. Yeah, it's okay, it's okay,
Hmm.
but I can't. It can't replace the original 1982 movie
No.
because the ensemble cast in that was amazing.
Wait,
And
wait, wait, Lee. I gotta cut you off. I gotta cut you off just to give Eros a round of applause. Thanks for making it, Eros. Both of us. I'm pretty good, but I just cut off Lee in what might have been a little bit of a dick move, so we'll see.
yes, such a dick sometimes.
All right, where were we? Do you remember?
Yeah, so it was the right stuff. The story
Oh
about
yeah.
the well, it starts off in David's
Was it
Edwards Air Force
was
Base
it
where they
who
were
was the
doing
actors in it? Who was the actors in that movie? Because I know it well. I just
Scott Glenn was in there, Ed Harris,
oh yeah,
uh,
Ed Harris is
the
okay.
young Jeff Goldblum was in
Oh
there,
yeah.
Dennis Quaid, Fred. Oh, he played Rio Arthur.
That was a good movie.
But no, it's such a great when you're watching it and like the camaraderie between Lance Henriksen was in it as well.
Hmm.
But like it's when you've got you see like the footsteps running down the hallway and then suddenly burst into a room and go, the Russians have got a man got something into
Yeah.
space. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's Sputnik. We've heard about it. And a couple of years later, it's like, oh, they've got a man into space. Yeah, yeah, it's Yuri Gagarin, and they're trying to. We got to do something. Right, let's go to the moon.
Yeah.
Especially after like Kennedy sort of announced it to the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like, we got to put this dude. We got to put a dude on the moon. But yeah, it's just when they start sort of trying to find the people with the right stuff. So like
Yeah.
all
Oh
these
gosh,
pilots.
yeah. What you got? Yeah, dude. You got to have your head screwed on straight. You don't want me in charge of your space mission. Like, wait,
Hmm.
what?
Because it's a movie of two. There's two films in one movie because it's the breaking of the sound barrier with Chuck
Mhm. Oh
Yeager.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because Chuck Yeager is like he's like legendary test pilot who was the first
Heck
guy to
yeah.
break the sound barrier, but he was also like in World War II, like he was I think he was a fighter race, but he was the first Allied pilot to shoot down a Nazi jet fighter,
Okay.
um, which he only managed to do that because he followed it home, and as
Yeah,
he
it's
was
probably
going
like
to land, he strafed it.
yeah, yeah. Hey,
But
eh,
Kill's a
It all
kill.
counts. Yep, dude. It all counts, dude. You got to get that gravy. We used to call it gravy. It's like someone's out there. You got to get that gravy, man.
Yeah, but he was such a character as well. It's like where um, they were trying to get these test pilots. They wanted like because there was a real bad sort of habit of them dying,
Yeah.
trying to go for the sound barrier, and they were like going around. There was offering loads of money to people. Like,
Hmm.
hey, John, would you you
Yeah. You
interested
want
in
to
coming
try
up
it?
in the next X one? And like he's going, no, I like the family.
I like living.
I like living. And they went and approached Jaeger and said, well, how much is it going to cost? And he goes, well, yeah, the Air Force is paying my wages, so you know,
Yeah.
that's it, isn't it? So he went up for his normal thing where I'm like he could have got like 100 grand
Hmm.
or something ridiculous to go up there, but
Yeah.
he's well the Air Force pays my
Oh, wait,
wages.
look at this. Look at this. Echo says my grandfather met Chuck Yeager.
So,
Little history in the chat right here.
Chuck Yeager was actually in the film as well.
Oh yeah, I think I remember that too.
He was working in the little bar they had that all the pilots used to go to at
Hmm.
Edwards. He was the actual guy who owned the bar, and you see him in the background, and like I think he talks once or twice, but he was playing that character.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, Chuck Yeager was you know a great player. And it's such a really good movie with all the different bits and pieces. Like Dennis Quaid in there was really good. Alan Shepard, well, it was played by Scott Glenn.
Yeah.
He was really cool. Ed Harris as
Yeah, Ed Harris.
John Glenn.
I guess it's funny. I don't think of him that much, but he's an actor I really enjoy.
Mm.
Like
And he's
I
been in
think
so many movies.
if you
Like
ask
my
me about
favourite
him,
films.
if you asked me about him, who's a great actor, blah blah. He's probably someone I would never think about, but then when you say it and I think of all the stuff I liked him in, I was like, oh heck yeah,
Okay,
dude, I love him and stuff.
two films that most people, well, three films that Ed Harris is really known for: The Rock
Yep,
as the Colonel dude.
yep.
Um, Jesus,
So
Apollo
okay,
13
yeah, of course that one because he was
is
great
the
in that.
special control dude,
That's one of my
and
favorites of his.
Enemy at the Gates,
Oh
where he plays
yeah,
the German sniper,
oh
the
yeah.
Major. That he's in the sort of the epic battle of Stalingrad between the German sniper supreme versus Vasily Zetsev,
And
the Russian.
he was in Glenn Ross, right?
Yes,
Ah, I
yes.
loved him in Glenn
I've not
Ross.
seen that,
Yeah,
so
you're such a
like,
big shot coming down. That's I always remember him from that.
yeah, no, you say he's one of those guys who's been around, like, and even like that Scott Glenn, who he was in Silence of the Lambs as the FBI.
Hmm.
Stalin's Jack Crawford, he played in that. Um, Backdraft, do you remember Backdraft?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
He played Axe,
yeah,
the Axe
yeah. I
army
did.
fireman who
Yeah.
like bust down doors and stuff. Oh, dude, Echo.
No, Echo, go do it, man. Appreciate you
Yeah,
stopping
man.
by. Get better. Drink some water. That's my answer for everything. Drink water.
Yeah.
So hope you feel better.
Get better soon, dude. Thank you for turning up, man.
Yeah, we'll be out here. Yeah, we'll probably
Yeah.
end here
So
shortly.
Quaid. Trying to think of other Dennis Quaid movies. And there's a few of them that was really cool as well. He was in Inner Space.
Hmm.
Dennis Quaid is
Gosh,
the
Inner
like
Space has been a while since
dude,
I've
the
seen
pilot
that.
inside Martin
Has
Short.
there been a good as a kid I was fascinated with the land of the lost or falling into the center of the earth and there's like a whole different world in there. And I know they've tried that multiple times, right? But has there ever been a good one where they even tried a TV series and I flicked it on and I saw some poorly animated monster running. I was like, "Oh gosh, I can't even try it."
That's the thing. They are that sort of cheesy movie type things. So you just
Yeah,
have
so
to accept it.
No, I
There's never
want a
going to
good
be
one.
a good one.
Yeah.
They are good in their own way.
Well, I'll
So
agree with that and their thing, but I mean, there hasn't been like one that I was like, and so I'm right though. You don't recall any that really stand out to you or anything, do you?
let's say like Journey to the Center of the Earth. It was because that was the
Yeah,
whole thing. Like, was it Doug McClure? Wasn't it? Doug
that there
McClure
was
was
one of
every,
those that I was decent. There was one with like some drill machine that was okay, but it
oh the
wasn't
core.
the core. Yeah, but like that isn't like an actual like oh, here's a whole civilization under the world or
No, no,
whatever,
no.
you know?
Yeah, no, because the thing with that, because I didn't really think much of that because it was the whole that oh yeah we got to drill down to the malt the iron
Mm-hmm.
core of the earth and then we've got to set
Yeah,
off and make it pick up speed again. Um, that
yeah, yeah.
didn't work for me on a
Mm-hmm.
science level.
No, I
Uh,
totally could.
I
Yeah.
want my make believe to be based in reality.
Yeah, yeah, I can't believe have your make believe your way.
Yeah, but you know, say like it's like those sort of like 60s, early 70s movies. Um, like one of my favorite sort of it was actually a comic book character. It was like one of the
Mhm.
first comic book movies, which was Doc Savage, Man of
Oh yeah.
Bronze,
Oh
which was
gosh, they did a docs. I remember it, but I don't recall anything about it now. That's
yeah,
funny
like
that
you
you
watch
say
it now,
docs.
it's proper cheese fest. But back then, I
Yeah.
just loved it. It's like it's Doc Savage. He's a man
Yeah.
of bronze, and the
Yeah,
luminescent
sometimes
snake
that's all it takes.
flying across
Yeah.
the screen.
That's a bad prop. I still want I still want a new like a done right Buck Rogers or a done right whatchamacallit with the Flash Gordon. You know what I mean? I'm like,
Mm.
come on, man. You can like Flash Gordon, I can almost imagine a little bit of that mixed with a little bit of like Fifth Element. You know what I mean, dude? Like just a little twinge of that. Like you can get the good mix in there.
Yeah, well, with Buck Rogers, you had loads like all the worlds of Mongo. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
the many worlds of Mongo. You know, so you obviously like you got the tree men with Baron, you know,
Oh, that's
Volta,
right. Yeah, dude,
and all those other
exactly.
worlds they could like have adventures on and so that. Characters from the original stuff like Kerr, who's like you know Flash's best buddy, the sort of like
Yeah.
wolf lion man type dude or whatever he was.
See, and
Um,
they just never relaunch. Like to me, I'm like, dude, you have that property. Someone out there owns it. You haven't tried to relaunch on that. You know what I mean? I'm like, come on, like you could do, and then you get props for, hey, we took this semi hokey idea and made it cool. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, look at this. Like, really do a relaunch the right way, in my opinion.
but that's the thing. Is like with Flash Gordon, I think because of like the '80s Flash Gordon, and the '80s Flash Gordon is pretty awesome.
Well, it has its feel. It was, yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Queen
it has
soundtrack
the
alone, like
aesthetic
Iru's said.
for it and all
Yeah.
that sort of thing. You know, it's very glamorous sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like and because they're so like again like. Would it be tainted if you tried to replicate that, or do you
Well,
go
yeah.
full flash in there? Yeah,
That's the
you would.
risk you take too, because me, I'm always half jaded with any of that stuff. You know what I mean? Like a relaunch, like, oh gosh, are you gonna totally mess it up and make it stupid and whatever?
But that's the thing. Is like they went like with Battlestar Galactica, for example. In the original one, it was family friendly to the most part, apart from the extermination of the human race, which they didn't really go into. You had
Yeah,
robots, and you had them, and yeah, there's a few horrifying things that happened, like
yeah,
the those bugs that underground with like taking the colonists and you know their
yeah.
little secret place they'd set up. Um, but you know, when they done the remake, that went sort of like that was modern times,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, it had that darker edge to it. There weren't so much humor in there. In
No, no, yeah, you're right on that. Dude, that remake. I was so happy that they finally did a remake or whatever that was good when Battlestar come out, and I'm still like, and maybe it's like the tinted glasses looking backwards, but then when I see it, I was like, dude, like that was the remake that was like I still see these other remakes. I'm like, oh, they're not as good as like what Battlestar was to that remake
yeah,
because like they took something and then just made it cool again.
Yeah, and they said they put the story right into it, and they
Mm-hmm.
took it to like next level, and that's what you want for your shows. And like for every Battlestar Galactica, there's probably like a
Woof.
dozen
For
other things
sure.
which
Easy. Yeah.
are really poo.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like what I was saying earlier on about Wheel of Time and the Lord of the Rings thing. Is
Mm-hmm.
that will the Lord of the Rings thing will probably get the look spot on,
Yep.
but will they get the sort of the acting talent for it to pull it
Yeah.
off like they did in the first one in the movies?
I
Or
know. See, that's where, yeah.
that's the thing. You've got to have the actors, but then you've got like again with Game of Thrones, you've also got like the prequel that's coming out, the Dance of Dragons one,
Yep.
and you've got several good, strong actors in there in cast in critical roles within that. So will that bring Game of Thrones back into the hearts of lots of people?
Yeah.
Um,
I know.
because that
It's
was the thing,
it's
like,
they're gambling that big money, you know what I mean?
yeah. But there is one of the things that they are doing. Another little spin off they're doing is Dunk and Egg, which is
Oh,
the Night of Seven Kingdoms.
wait, there's a um what is it? There's like some sort of Blade Runner thing coming out. Isn't there like some
Yeah,
cartoon that came
there's
out on
Blade Runner
Netflix?
series and an Alien series apparently.
Okay, so I didn't know there's like a Blade Runner series. I'm like, okay, that'll be interesting. I'm always like, so we'll see.
Yeah, but it's like, well, Blade Runner is the whole point of it was hunting down replicants.
Mm-hmm.
So everything's going to be replicants involved, and yeah, I don't know. Like aliens, you might have a little bit more because you don't have to have aliens in there
No,
all
no.
the time. It's going to be like the build up to some corporate dirtbag screwing over
Yeah.
somebody for a fucking percentage,
Yeah.
um, as they often do, because that's humans for you.
Yeah. For real.
um, but yeah, that could be interesting. But then again, I'm biased. I love aliens, so
So
uh,
do I.
you know.
Well, I think maybe we'll call it good here for today. I got the puppy hounding me, so he's staring at
How,
me like I'm the worst. I think we'll
what are we
give your
doing?
voice you'll give your voice a little bit of a rest, and then next week no show unfortunately, but the week after we're coming back strong. So if you have a surprise Wednesday stream, I'll make sure to let everyone know so they can come visit the Lee show.
Yeah,
And just
yeah.
as
I
long
think,
as it's not better than this, you can't do
we,
anything better than this show, Lee. That's the rule, man. Because they'll be like, "Oh, why don't you go watch Lee's show? It's crummy when you're the host, Artist Empire."
oh, don't say that, dude. You know I love you. But
uh,
we got to keep the word of the empire alive. You know,
yeah, I know. I know. This is
as
funny.
the artist empire, you've got your allies, and
I
obviously
know. I know.
um,
I have to. I've just like I'm
the
always like, this is
house of
this is
Mars
this
supports
is
the
my
empire.
hedge. I think this is my hedge against the end of the world because I'm getting to know people all around the world. So like if all of America is falling into the ocean, maybe I have to go to like someone in Sweden or someone maybe Australia is the safe spot to go. Maybe it's the Arctic. I don't have anyone in the Arctic, so I'm trying to branch out to have a lot of different people. So like if my continent
That's a
falls
good
in the
plan.
ocean,
So I think the biggest threat to America, apart from yourselves,
yeah,
uh,
it's always there.
there was something I was watching about. There's off the coast of Africa. You got the like Tenerife, the
Yeah.
islands, the shores down there, and apparently there's one of the islands there where it's like a volcanic island. Um, the thing is actually the island like there's like a fault going on it, like, and they
Yeah.
fear it's going to split off and
Yeah.
fall into the ocean. And the thing is with obviously
Oh, it would
tidal
push all
waves,
that. Yeah, it would push it all that way across.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
going to go that East Coast is not going to be looking too
No,
happy.
when I flew over New York for the first time, I just laughed. I'm like, who is the moron who built that right on the edge? It looks like there's water. It looks like you have a piece of glass, and part of that piece of glass is water, and part of it's land, and then it's like precariously on the edge of this little island, and it's this massive tall buildings. You look at it and
Mm,
be like, dude, that is the dumbest engineering thing of all time. Move away, like see that massive ocean? Move away from that. Move away because it's
yeah.
right there.
Have
It's
you
like
not seen Deep
yeah,
Impact?
it's like and that's what. And I look at it, I laugh. I'm like, from the air, it's like, dude, if that water goes up a millimeter, your whole civilization right there is rolled off, dude.
Oh, talking about flooding. Talking about flooding. This Friday, the 10th, it's The Expanse season 6 starts.
Oh, so I gotta catch up on mine. I got a couple more episodes. I'll finish that off. I'll try to finish that off if I can, and then
Yeah,
I'll catch that up. That'll be good.
catch that up, dude. Season 6 is
Well,
coming today. There's
thanks
only 6
everyone.
episodes in season 6.
Stop by Eru's. I'm gonna stop by one day when we get it all sorted out. When he has like a Saturday stream, I want to be on there, and then I'm gonna be the one drinking beers and whatever rabble rousing. I'm gonna make up lore to act like I know what I'm talking about. I'll